Well, we sit just a mere, not even a month until Nike becomes the official apparel company for Auburn Athletics. Well, we got to break down the history of Under Armour. I know some of you already be done with it, but we're going to talk about Auburn and Under Armour for the last few days and month that we can. A history coming up here with our good friend Clint Richardson. We're going to have him on to discuss, and let's get into all those different things right now. War Eagle, and welcome to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we discuss, we share, and we talk about the Auburn experience, which is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. If it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us and what we're going to be doing on this particular stream today. As always, we love to welcome you here and ask that you smash the like button and that share button wherever you're watching, if you're on the live portion, and drop comments and questions throughout the stream. We're going to get into a lot of different things today. But as you can see on screen with me right now, if you're watching live, unfortunately, we couldn't find anybody else to do the show tonight. So we had to go back to our good friend, Mr. and he's gone from the screen already, Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database, or Pikachu of the Auburn Uniform Database. Hey, that's a much better looking thing than what I was looking at.
I agree. Why do I do this to myself?
You know what you're getting yourself into when you come to this stream.
Do this again.
We're here. A lot of excitement. There's been a lot of asking for you, as I told you privately, Clint, this weekend about this subject, about just, uniform stuff that everybody loves talking to you here. So I'm happy to report that while we are certainly doing this one this evening, we've got maybe some plans for some upcoming episodes as well that we've got some tentative dates for, and we'll be talking about soon.
It is going to be a very busy summer.
A busy summer for Clint, and honestly one like we talked about a year ago when for the upcoming July date a year at that time. This is like a time of your life that you just were born and raised for. An apparel switch, a ending of something, a beginning of something, the endless amounts of content and just data and things to analyze. Did you ever think that you'd be here at this point?
No. Back in, 2022, when Auburn broke out the 2021, when Auburn broke out the white face mask at Penn State for the first time.
Yeah.
Somebody on Twitter is like, this must be your Super Bowl. And I take that as a compliment of how I covered it. But this certainly is that times 10. It's not every day that we have a definitive beginning and a definitive end of an era like this. Jay Jacobs said on his podcast last week or the week before that Auburn had been with Russell for 75 years. And that is such a hard date to find. Like, that was news to me. I'm sure that that's accurate, but I don't know how I can go back and prove that without digging through athletic apparel purchase agreements in the archives. But, we have such a definitive date when Under Armour began, and now we have a date that's less than 30 days away of when Under Armour will end. And it makes there such a pretty bookend for this. So, and I had mentioned on Twitter this week, teasing this, the work that we're going to be discussing tonight, that this has been a long time coming. I actually started in 2020 putting together essentially what evolved into this. I have floated around the idea of turning this into a coffee table book. So please let me know if that interests you, because that's something that I would love to do. Just to have had the visual history of almost 20 years of Auburn athletic uniforms in one place. I think that that's such a cool thing, and I want to get there at some point with this content.
Well, this is I hate to say beginning stages, because you've already put in so much work into all of this tonight. But as this month continues, your work is only going to get started, because you've got even more Nike stuff. So let me set the table for everybody here. It's my favorite phrase, after all. What we're not going to be doing a lot tonight is discussing Nike. I'm sure it'll naturally come up. But this is about Auburn and Under Armour, and the article, as Clint mentioned, that he has put out that is releasing in stages the history of Auburn uniforms across multiple sports that you need to go and check out. We have the link, I believe, in the description on Facebook. I know in the description on YouTube.
It's
go check it out.
auburnuniforms.com/under-armour. And that's all
there you go.
Do.
That's all you got to do.
It'll get you there.
But if you can't do that, we've got the links available for you there too. So check that out in full detail. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff that he's already revealed. We're going to bring it up on screen too. But whatever Clint wants to show us, tell us, talk about within the realm of that, he can tonight. At the end, if we have some time, we may do a Q&A style where we take anything fair game. And we probably do a little bit throughout the stream as well. But that's just kind of what to expect on our 30, 45 minutes to an hour that we're going to spend together. It usually ends up being an hour because Clint can't shut up about all aesthetics.
Well, let's just start here. I have always said no detail is too small to cover. And the tagline for this entire series is every uniform, every detail.
Right.
And it's true. You dive into this and there's seven articles across 7 different programs, 17 to 18 years per program, and every single uniform. If you're one of those people who thinks Auburn football wears 2 uniforms, what's the big deal? You are sorely mistaken. This is it. This is where you want to be. So, this is auburnuniforms.com/Under Armour, and you'll see that there are all 7 programs are right here. We haven't gotten to most of them just yet, but currently available are Auburn's complete Under Armour history of football, soccer, and volleyball. And these go as detailed as you think. And, I'll start this one. We'll start with football.
Come on. You got to start with football. That's what everybody's mainly here for, but there's going to be some cool stuff in the other.
We'll start with 2006 so that you can see specifically what Russell was working with.
Yeah.
And here's a great example. Look how rounded and sans serif font this nameplate is. This was with Russell. Under Armour comes in. We have a new blocky serifed font. And that's how this whole thing goes. We're diving through every single look. Even the fact that in 2006, that first year with Under Armour for Auburn football, the numbers on the jersey were screen printed. They were printed directly onto the garment. In 2007, they were tackle twills. So now they're sewn on pieces of fabric that have been cut into the shape of the number and sewn directly onto the jersey. So even just small little details like that. Ben Tate right here, we show him in, 2009, I believe? Swapping that 44 for the 4 after Zach Efridge gets hurt. So placements of the SEC and NCAA pennant patches on the back of the helmet, where the number placed on the back of the helmet, helmet bumpers, helmet decals, face mask colors, everything. So this is the most detailed look you will ever find about anything Auburn uniform related. And I mean, here, Kyle, do you remember the 2010 A-Day game?
Do I? Yes, of course.
Well, not so much because of who was wearing the uniforms, but the uniforms themselves.
No, I don't remember the specific aspect of that uniform in the A-Day game.
Well, here you go. They increased the size of the AU logo on the helmet by
it is larger.
3/8 of an inch.
That is larger.
And I was at the game. This was the first A-Day game that I had gotten to go to, and I noticed it immediately. This predates the Auburn Uniform Database too. I was like, something's weird. Something doesn't look right. And it came out that next week that they had enlarged the logo. They actually enlarged the logo on the midfield or on the football field itself. But both got reverted back to their old sizes shortly after. So again, it's everything. The detailed breakdowns of each template, all the template changes, and how that impacted Auburn Uniforms designs, the color on color games in 2011 and 2012. I mean, it's all here. It's all here.
So in the history gathering portion of this, Clint, was this, I know, yes, I'm kind of asking a redundant question here. I know you've been gathering this over the years. You've been doing the Auburn Uniform Database, but what's the process been like getting this compiled together? Like, is it just you gathered everything that you've already been posting about the stuff, or were there new things that you had to go out there and find to complete the story or the narrative of this history? Like, I know that's a broad question, but
no, it's a little bit of both. Like, I had pretty much written this entire article when I think it was either somebody on Twitter had sent me a listing of product or a jersey that they had found or purchased, or it showed up on eBay. I can't remember which. And I immediately noticed that 2006 football jersey was screen printed. And so, that's kind of what I love about this, is that every single day something new can show up. I didn't even think about the number applications onto the jerseys while writing this. Yeah. So it's a little bit of both. I think a lot of people think that I have all of this internally memorized, but I don't. And I have to revert back to my own research all the time. So my saying is just trust the research. Yeah. Trust what I've done in the past. Like, I'll stare at a photo like, what in the world was I doing when I made this mock-up? But it's accurate. So I have extensive reference material saved onto my computer and the cloud, thankfully, and try to just replicate them as closely as possible in the mock-ups, and just dive into these and make sure that I can tell the story of the Auburn uniform as deeply as I want to be told.
Right. Well, apparently you don't have this memorized. You're a fraud now, according to your friend here.
Thanks, Chad. Chad. You're right. This one is weird, Chad. It's weird you watching me.
So, and then I think you know who this is, Aubrey, champion. And so he said he was going to join us tonight when he was on our TikTok live. You got a blood game jersey section in this one?
I do. It is.
Oh my gosh!
It is. I believe it's in the men's basketball section.
Oh. It's because Horace Spencer, is that the one?
Alan Payne, Horace Spencer. Crap. I am blanking. Who was our sixth man off the bench this past year? Chris Moore.
Chris Moore. How did I forget?
Yep. I'm sorry, Chris. I love you.
I know, Chris. Sorry, buddy.
But yep, it should all be in here. This is kind of where it got a little weird for me. As many of you probably know, I do post a yearly season recap of everything that happened over the course of the athletic season. And I was going back and forth, like, what do I add into the 2024-25 sections of each of these? And what do I save for that recap article? So I kind of just had to, these articles are just going to be the broader stuff, and the recap articles are going to be the more specific things. So if the blood jerseys indeed are not in the basketball sections, they will be in the season recap.
I'm kind of formulating an idea here.
Oh, boy.
This is your
buckle up.
Well, no. I think you're going to like this one. As we're planning your book that people have already expressed interest for in the comments, you have the main section of the history of each sport, but at the end you've got the weird stuff, and that's where the blood uniform stuff goes in. And so you can go across, like, maybe you don't want to have a blood uniform section in every single one of them.
I don't know how that title would work for SEO purposes. I don't like that one.
That's the tough one to think about right there. But that's just an idea coming from over here. You know how I like ideas. They're not all good ones, but here I am trying to.
You guys should see the text threads that Kyle sends me out of the blue.
What do you think about this? And then when I don't get a response during non-work hours, that is quick enough.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
let's not even mention that Kyle calls me at 2:30 while I'm at work and then is surprised when I don't answer.
Well, I just every once in a while you might answer if it's important enough. Okay, so we've got a little bit of background on it, maybe how you did this, how you compiled all this stuff, and certainly we can keep talking about those angles of it. But let me start here because this is about Auburn and Under Armour and their history, and then a celebration. I think is a fair way to say it. I know for others it's a celebration that it's a leaving, but it's a big part of our history. So, what's the one thing, whether it's in the article or not, or the few things that you want people to remember, whether it's a date or something significant that happened in the history of Auburn and Under Armour?
That's a good question. I think just as you dive through each of these sports, you will see that each evolved in their own unique way. Mm-hmm. Auburn football, of course, is not going to change a whole heck of a lot, but baseball did. Softball has. Auburn soccer is probably the most consistently designed team, second only to football. When they came out with this striped sash design in 2014, it's pretty much stayed ever since. They've tweaked it here and there, but that design is now Auburn soccer. Basketball and softball and baseball and volleyball have all evolved into their own unique ways. I think you'll see kind of an overarching theme that, about 2015, 2016, Auburn really tried to create a much more cohesive branding around all sports. And that includes going a little bit simpler at times, but, it's just these sports have evolved. The landscape of uniform design on such a broad level has evolved. And I always call it like it's a pendulum. We'll see designs go back to the crazy Oregon world soon enough and get us out of this minimalistic design world that we currently are in. And it's starting to swing back. Just a couple of years ago, we had teams revealing uniforms that had no decoration whatsoever, no stripes, just a name and a color and a logo. And now this past year we saw, it was the joke that Nike is just giving every single team the exact same set of stripes on everything they released. So, you see that from a broad term. You can see that in a micro sense with Auburn athletics.
One of the things that sticks out to me about Auburn and Under Armour, besides just the visuals of it, is the marketing side of it. And I'm going back to when this all first started. 2006 was right when it officially was on the field, but 2005, as it says on your article, December 1st is 2005 was when it was announced.
Correct.
Click clack.
Click, clack.
Come on. How do you not just go back and think about Tommy Tuberville in his just Southern drawl, click clack, coming out of the tunnel? I mean, oddly, it got me fired up because it was about the time we were all doing the little arm things together still, all that. So it was kind of good. I'm not going to lie.
Well, and again, I'll reference Jay Jacobs' podcast on Auburn Undercover from a week or two ago. He mentioned that when Under Armour was that new kid on the block and they had that cool factor that a lot of the players loved their commercials. Jay specifically mentioned that there was a commercial with the high school team sitting on the bus and they're just, pounding on the chairs and they're kind of beatboxing and just having a good time and getting fired up to go play. And Jay said that a lot of the players came up to him and like, we are excited to do this. We want to see this. I think the street cred of Under Armour has certainly waned in the past couple of years. And, it's been no secret that one of Under Armour's biggest fallings is that they've been unable to keep younger fans. Like when you're 6 to 12, Under Armour's the coolest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But once they turn 13, it's just they're losing Under Armour. They're going to Nike or Adidas or any other of these streetwear brands. And, Under Armour has just had a lot of faults
right?
Commercially, corporately, legally. Let's not even mention the stock options that they paid Auburn in with the 2015 contract extension. Those things. It was worth $10 million in 2015, and if you do just a little bit of math, it's worth under $1 million today.
Mm-hmm. It's
insane how far it's dropped, and Under Armour has a lot of blame to hold on that. If Auburn had gone to market 10 years ago, which they did with the extension, I don't think you see what you see today. If Auburn had gone to market 5 years ago, I'm curious how different that would play. Yeah. And I said it on here and I said it online. I said it many times that, as we were looking forward to that 2024 date or the 2023 date when Auburn was allowed to actually start speaking with other apparel companies, that it all depends on who is at the table for Auburn. Do they want money? Do they want the notoriety with the brand that they're teaming up with? Do they want the best apparel and equipment available for the players? And I think, kind of if you read in between the lines of John Cohen's responses of their last year since it was announced that Auburn was switching to Nike, I think he balanced it all really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I've liked about John Cohen and his decisions thus far, I mean, I'm not saying that every decision he's made is a perfect one, but I feel like he's been very measured and wise in some of the ways he's gone about doing some things. So I have full faith that he came to the table doing what was best for Auburn, not just to make money, but to also what's the best thing, stability. You have heard me say this a lot, Clint, to you personally here on shows like this, that I'm not a fan of the switch. But I also recognize that what I want may not be what's best for Auburn. And so in that essence, I'm fine with it. Like it's if somebody asked my opinion, I was like, well, I'm not in favor of it, but hey, it is what it is, because some of the things you talked about, there is good in the Auburn and Under Armour relationship, but there is a lot of not so great things as well. Where I think the stock options thing that you talked about was a perfect thing. I want to circle back to something you said at the very start of what you were talking about there. And I'm just thinking about even in my other streams we do, whether it's on TikTok and stuff and just online and social media. And I see this narrative about Under Armour doesn't play well with the younger crowds. And I definitely see that, because I see a lot of people who continue that conversation are coming from younger crowds, and they haven't really played to that group, which is probably a big reason why they fell off. I mean, they had a strong start, click, clack, and then it just was like, what happened after that, So I think if you're looking for blame to place in this and why this failed or not, would you consider this a failure of Under Armour, or do you think it's just the natural progression of things?
I think it's both. I think that it's hard to look back at this now with hindsight being 2020, but Auburn probably would have stuck with Under Armour for the long term if, one, it was a better, I don't want to say a better company, but the response of fans was better. That we know Under Armour has had bad shoes. Their footwear has always been lacking. They've, lacked in the sponsorship deals with players after they've left the universities. I think, with their accounting issues that they've had and having the SEC, not the Southeastern Conference, but the Securities Exchange Commission on their back with how they've misrepresented accounting numbers in the past. Like, there's a lot of things that I think had just ultimately added up. And, Cohen and his team have only been here for a handful of years. And I don't know if, I can't speak to how they made this decision. I don't know if they went out and spoke to athletes. I think that he said in the past that he has. But there's a lot of a history here to catch up on pretty quickly for him.
Yeah.
but yeah, I just this one's interesting. I think that, I actually have copies of the 2006 and the 2015, and there's a third extension contract in between. But I have copies of all three of those contracts, and I have read through them, and it is as legalese and boring as you could ever imagine. But there's one thing that has always caught my attention, and I genuinely do not know who is at fault. If this is Under Armour's fault for not following through, or Auburn's fault for not holding them accountable at it at the same time. But there's a line that says every single year, Auburn will be featured in a national broadcasted commercial and advertising plan for Under Armour.
And wait, when was the last? Is this in every one of those?
I believe so. I don't quote me on that, but I would have to double check those.
Yeah.
But the last national commercial I remember was when Cam was getting drafted and they shot the commercial in Jordan hair.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
I don't recall. I don't know if they did one in 2013. They did one in 2010. I know that for sure. But when's the last time you've seen Auburn featured in one of those commercials? It's been a long time. And again, I don't know who is to blame at that. But that is in the contract, and it fell short.
So two things off of that. I remember I have these like glimpses of like it was a national campaign, but with multiple teams shown in it very quickly. So I remember some elements of that, but very vaguely. The other thing is you wonder, yes, they agreed to this in contract, but was Auburn seeing kind of the dying of Under Armour and they kind of like, we're good. Just you don't have to honor that.
And again, I have, the copies that I have were from signing day.
Yeah.
I don't have any potential revisions that said, hey, you can strike us from this as long as you pay us X amount.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's
and I'm
happened.
Sure there are those. That has got to have happened. But I'm just saying from what I have, this was the rule. This was what was agreed upon, and it wasn't followed through on both parties.
Yeah. That is interesting.
There's a lot of missing information in that, but take that for what it's worth.
Well, there's going to be a lot of things I think we can point to in why this didn't last. But the reality is that we've got 19 years of things to talk about and learn about in your article here. So maybe switching gears back to that for a little bit. Let's go to one of the other sports that you have already revealed and maybe scroll down so everybody can see what is coming. So you've got obviously baseball, basketball for men's and women's. And then you've also got softball and you've already revealed volleyball, football, and soccer. Take us let's do soccer because you talked about them being, I forget the phrase that you used. Show us maybe something interesting that they need to go read and learn a little bit more about in this portion.
So this was one of the things that I had to get accomplished before writing these articles. I had to do research on the old days of Auburn soccer, the 2006 to 2012-ish eras. And again, I didn't put this in the articles, but I have spreadsheets of every single game each of these programs have played and try to find photographic evidence of every single event. Those early days for soccer, softball, and volleyball are incomplete. So there are likely other designs that are not included in this. I scoured the internet. I scoured the newspaper archives. I have looked everywhere, and I am presenting you everything that I have. But the early years, I mean, look at these goalkeeper uniforms.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw Auburn in yellow?
It's been a while. It has been a long while. I've been scrolling through.
But this is one thing that I love about this early era. Under Armour always tried to push the envelope, especially 06 to 2010, 2011. So notice that we've got, this navy and white colorway with just one stripe on one side of the uniform. Let's fast forward a season, and it's a different color.
Mm-hmm.
We have, we had originally had blue with a white stripe. Now we have blue with an orange stripe. And they did things like this for volleyball as well. And it's just a funny little look into it of like, was that a mistake? Or did we just decide we want a better color balance or what? I know these aren't great photos because this is all that's available, but the first powder blue goalkeeper kit had a navy number on the front outlined in white, while the back was white outlined in navy. And it's those small little intricacies that you really dive into as you start looking into these. Was this 2008 brought new design with kind of like these side stripes and some piping. It's, these are all unique. One game in pink. Again, there are no game photos of this, so I have no idea what the back of this uniform looks like. Black makes another appearance. Here's a neon green goalkeeper kit.
I don't even know. Can you call that neon? That's more like just slime green more than anything.
It works. But just, 2010, we get these two very different designs, almost like it's a sports bra design.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to not see that now. Thank you for that.
And both of them have completely different collar designs. This one, I don't know. I can't point to it with I guess I can point to it. The sleeve stripe is actually like, it's thin in the back and it's thicker on the front. I don't know if that's showing very well right here, but
I can see what you're talking about.
It's not even around the sleeve. I mean, even this one, just these like half circular orange fields on the sleeves, or that they end up with these stripes at the bottom of the shirt. It's just like, when you're putting these together, what goes through your mind? Like, well, yeah. There it is.
What?
Who says, let's do it like this? It's just weird.
Let's make it look like a sports bra that's on the top of everything. Yeah. I think, okay, so here's a good point, Clint. If you keep scrolling through the article, and we encourage you to go look at this in more detail, then you'll be able to get here on the live stream for all those watching and listening. But in 2014, it goes to the sash look. Yes. That's pretty consistent. You talked about how it went from that. So you go from an era in soccer where we're trying everything, even some what we question what they were doing around the table that day, to a lot of consistency, at least in maybe what people are mainly noticing, but people like you are noticing the other nuances too. Do you think that is a reflection of the company changing in a way because they were so living on the edge and then go to, well, let's just keep replicating with minor changes?
So again, you always have to remember that while Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, whoever produces the item, the team ultimately has final say.
Okay.
That's not 100% true all the time. It's about 95% true.
Okay.
So, let's hear this one, 2020 to 2021.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
You see that. I mean, we called this the umbilical cord stripe. It was so dumb, but there was a reason. There was a seam that ran right across the collarbone, and that seam had like mesh in between it. Mm-hmm. And you can't apply that stripe the same way as you can on the non-mesh solid portion of the jersey. So a Under Armour designed template impacted the uniform. That's the exact same thing that happened in 2011 when Auburn football went to the truncated stripes. There was a comment about that a couple of minutes ago. Kyle, if you can pull that one up.
Which one was it again?
Was it Gardner? Let's see. Oops. Let me move to the right screen.
And which one? I'm looking for it on here.
716.
716. All right, I'll pull that up here. And I'm scrolling. This is
riveting.
Well, here's the problem. I'm an hour ahead of you, and it shows up a little bit. This one right here. This one right here.
Yep. I don't know why we call it after me. I'll take that as a point of compliment, I guess. But that's the exact same thing. Auburn did not decide that they wanted a bad uniform look, that they wanted a tight, scrunchy uniform with smaller stripes and a pointed stripe on the pants. That was just Under Armour like, hey, this is what we're doing this year. Mm-hmm. We're just going to move you to this.
Yeah.
Do you like it or not? And the only other option was to wear the same uniform that they've worn for now 5 or 6 years. And it just doesn't work like that. So, while the team ultimately has final say on what the design is, the brand has a lot of say in how it all meshes.
There you go. So there's the reasoning why he calls it the Clint stripe.
Okay, I'll take that. That is a point of pride then.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you can look into, let's say softball or soccer, for example. You can look through every single one of these and pick out which version was the best. I think that 2024 version is the best. Maybe 23 is, but it's just there's all these small little changes that were made throughout the year. Does the short stripe need to be perfectly vertical? Does it need to be at an angle? Does it need to curve? All those kind of things. And I think you could do the same thing with men's basketball. Let's go back to that Final Four, the 2019 Final Four trip. I can't just say one anymore. The throwback look, there were 2 versions of that. And the first one had a worse jersey, but better shorts. And I've always wanted to pair them up. And it's just that kind of thing. There's all these little small intricacies that make a uniform good, bad, annoying, or not. I mean, I still can't believe we wore these. What in the world is this?
The umbilical cord one?
Yes. Why? And then why is the collar orange on all 3 of them?
Mm-hmm.
We're contrasting color, not contrasting color. Those kind of things just drive me nuts.
So, and this is where my mind works in a lot of this a little bit differently than yours. And maybe you think about this too. I don't know, but I like to put myself in the shoes of them and be like, okay, what does this history that we're going through tell me about why we're ending the story, so to speak? And I guess that's what I was asking earlier. You see a lot of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. Let's be innovative. Let's push the envelope a little bit.
You'll see a lot of that in baseball and softball.
And then we'll all of a sudden find something that works. And what I mean works is that the team, at least as you have addressed, has made the decision. This works for us. Let's keep it close to this. But then I guess you see a little bit more experimentation again. Maybe they're trying to reinvent themselves again. But then they get to the end and we're just back to, and I know that this is all about the team has to approve it and stuff like that. But I think there's some reflection in that at the end to maybe their best one, at least in your opinion, for the soccer uniform, is their last one's the best, maybe trying to sell Auburn one more time because these things are ordered years in advance. If I remember you saying that correctly.
They are. So just, Auburn didn't decide last minute, hey, we've got to buy this and use whatever money is left. That's possible that that's what happened in a couple of cases, but these are usually placed 1.5 years to 2 or 3 years in advance. So I do find it interesting that softball, soccer, and volleyball and football all had brand new uniforms in the last year of the deal. I think that that's just a fascinating way to look at it. But, we've gotten to the point where, minus COVID, which ruined so much. Uniforms have about a 3-year lifespan. And, with soccer, they wore those same uniforms that they debuted in the fall for their spring training games. And, these get a lot more wear and tear than just showing up in the 18, 20 games of the regular season, whatever it is. So, excuse me.
Well, let's do this because I want to leave some time at the end for some comments that I saved so that we can maybe spend a little bit more time on those. But let's go back maybe to football, and you can bring it up if you'd like, but I'm sure it's in there. I haven't looked all the way down in the article yet. But
Come on, Kyle. It's only the beefiest article of them all.
But what I'm sure of in there is probably the other moment in the time that you and I have known each other and the history of Auburn and Under Armour, that there was as much excitement and much generated conversation about it. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Is it the face mask?
It's the face mask. Yes. And I know we're only, 3 years removed from that. And I know you got to go all the way down.
Yeah, I told you these things are beefy.
That's what then this, I see. You see how I kind of set you up to show people how much information they can digest here?
Let's keep going.
But
there you go, 2021.
I do think if our purpose here today is to at least just do a swathing conversation of Auburn and Under Armour's history, we cannot not talk about this again. This was the most significant change of the uniform, at least for my eyes, and I know there's more that you see and that you inform us about, that we've had in my lifetime, or at least that I've been aware of. And there was a lot of conversation. I figured you would, but I didn't want to put words in your mouth. The amount of buzz and conversation generation around this was just nuts in one of the worst periods of Auburn's history. So it's just wild that we've got those two things going around at the same time.
Well, and there is a conversation to be had, based off of that in sports to begin with. There's always a conversation of like, when a team wins a championship in their worst uniform, it tends to stick. Let's look at Cleveland, the Cavaliers. When LeBron came back and won that title with Cleveland, they did so in this hideous black sleeved uniform. And it didn't fit Cleveland's brand. It was an ugly uniform, but they celebrated winning the Larry O'Brien title in that uniform. And it was, it's the first championship for that program, for that franchise. Of course, it's going to be a legendary moment. Well, that moment transcends into that uniform. So now that uniform, despite being the most hideous thing in the world, is legendary in Cleveland Cavaliers history. Same thing, we see it all the time of teams winning when they don't look the best. And it's, as a uniform nut, there's almost this like, dang it, that's not what needed to happen. It's like, this is just giving them reason to continue looking bad. So it's kind of the miracle that through the mud that Auburn football has been through in the last 5 or 6 years, that these continue to stick around.
Yeah.
I worried that when Harsin got fired and Freeze was hired, that this was going to be the first thing on the cutting room floor. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they're not. I think that they add such a unique touch to such a traditional uniform. And I mean, you know how much I love those orange face masks too. But it just adds the tiniest little thing that most people who walk into that stadium could not care less about. But it makes me excited. It makes a lot of other people excited. It's a little bit more work for the equipment managers, but it just shows that a little bit can go a long ways.
Right.
And again, we'll look at the templates and show you how everything has molded over the last 18 years. but this certainly is one of the biggest impact visually for Auburn football.
Yeah. Obviously, and I've said this on several other things, I'm a big fan of the white face mask, especially completing what I call the Stormtrooper look. It is amazing. I remember when we wore those at Penn State in their whiteout, and I was like, man, I know that they're all white out there too, but jeez, it looks so good to me.
Oh, look at that.
I hate it.
No, you don't.
I do. I absolutely. And listen, sorry, this is a little side tangent here.
Oh, great.
The biggest disagreement that I think you and I have had, I don't know if we've had this together yet, but I've said this before. I think Ole Miss has the worst uniforms in history. I truly do. I know you love them, right? Am I correct in that?
No, I do not love Ole Miss's uniforms, but I love that powder blue helmet.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I hate they can't decide what mascot they want to be, and they can't decide what their actual colors are. And I know it's in their whatever. Look, I've already made somebody mad. Look, you
get it, Chad. You get it.
So sorry, side tangent there on that. But I wanted us to at least bring this up again because I think it's probably the most overall well accepted big thing that happened in Auburn and Under Armour's history. The face mask, the changes, whether you like one, you like them all, it certainly adds that, like you said, little bit of something extra that maybe why they stayed too, Clint, in a time where Auburn's very tumultuous in terms of its success in the program. It offered something to kind of quell the masses. Like where there was a lot of excitement about this. Why would we remove that just to remove the memories of this season? People love this. They talked about it, Yep.
And I think it's, it's uniforms. It's not curing cancer. It's not the most important thing in the world, but you can just see the history of Auburn and Auburn football or any of these other sports through this lens. And it's just, it's a different lens. I've said it before. I don't let wins and losses decide my day anymore like I used to when I was 17. But it's also because I'm just consumed by this and trying to track this as best as I can. And, I've always said it, and I've told you, and I'm sure I said it on here before, but I do all of this because I enjoy it.
Right.
If one person out there enjoys it as well, that's just a bonus.
Yep.
And that's fine by me.
Speaking of enjoying things, this is a good thing from Aubrey here as a former D1 equipment guy who had 81 uniform combos. It's always worth it for an equipment guy to put in that extra effort. So referencing Clint.
Aubrey knows very well.
Yeah, referencing that while the face masks were a change, required more work, it paid off in fan response. The appreciation that the equipment staff, I'm sure, got because of that, at least from some people, and probably some more.
The equipment managers are the most underappreciated and overworked people in all of sports.
So,
and I don't just say that because I know Aubrey personally.
Well, a lot of people in the industry, and what the effort has to go into, the things that they have to work through and all that kind of stuff. You've built your own Auburn helmets, compiled them, and don't you have videos up on your small YouTube channel?
I do. We built one live on this channel.
That's right. How long ago was that?
Oh God, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but one day I'm going to get Clint to do a full blown YouTube channel. He doesn't know that it's going to happen eventually. I'm going to whittle him down. Okay, let's do this, Clint. We're sitting at about almost 50 minutes in the stream. We can bring this back up if necessary, but I'm going to bring us to the full screen portion of this. We can certainly take some more comments and questions. I've got a few saved that I don't think we've touched on yet that I want us to roll back through too. But please drop those in now in the live portion. What are you laughing at?
I got friends in the group chat there. Okay. Chad, come on, man.
So drop those in now. We can address anything. We'll try to keep it Auburn and Under Armour related, but I guess if you have to have an Auburn and Nike question answered tonight, then certainly you can. Would be your time. You can drop it, and Clint has given you the final approval on that, and that's all that matters, right? Not the guy with the clicky clicks.
Who are you?
I'm the clicky click guy.
Again, I wish that this system that we use allowed me to bring up comments too. But
there may be a way to do that, and I need to investigate that. And that way you don't have to rely on me awkwardly searching for minutes here. Anyway, okay, reminders for you here. Article, go check it out. auburnuniforms.com/Under Armour.
Yep.
Got it. And the links are in the description. They should be on the post as well. Go check all of that out. And you'll do yourself a favor by educating yourself on not just Auburn's aesthetics, but a history of it as well. It'll take you through.
And again, if you think that Auburn football is the easiest thing in the world to track, you're not paying attention. Just dive in and you'll see just how much goes into all of this.
Yes. I missed this earlier. It's from my good friend Matt with Barner Supply. Says, love the database. I'm constantly amazed by the content that Clint puts out. So
thank you, Matt. I missed that one too. Where did that one come from?
Maybe it's on Twitter, so maybe it was like delayed or something, but I didn't see it at the start of this. I don't know. Anyway, the Twitter X world is certainly strange sometimes. Let's see here. I'll go back through some of the ones that I have. This is from Neil. Neil, I think he says, click the link, says story releasing on 6/5. I think if you scroll down, you'll see the ones that are already released.
They're in alphabetical order.
Yeah. So just make sure you continue to scroll and you'll see that. But thank you for the heads up. All right. How will Tahads Under Armour contract be used next year under Nike?
I am so interested to see how this works out. I have no idea. My guess, this is a guess, I do not have a copy of this NIL deal. Tahad will be allowed to promote Under Armour personally. There can be no Auburn logos in that. And when he is in Auburn, he is in Auburn gear, he probably cannot wear Under Armour at all. I know that there are some schools that are starting to go their own route in terms of like shoe deals and allowing players to have their own deal, so that, for example, Tahad could wear Under Armour shoes next year while wearing Nike uniforms. That's possible. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. This is going to be the biggest one.
Yeah, I had people bring that up earlier this month, and I obviously am not informed enough on that to even begin to guess. I would trust your assumptions.
It may look like you might see some teams that look very NBA-like. Mm-hmm. Team is very uniform from head to ankle, and then footwear is the individual players. We might get to that point pretty soon, actually, but I don't know what Auburn's going to do.
Yeah, it'll be something else for you to cover and talk about in this changing world for Auburn with Nike coming up here very soon. But there's some of that weird overlap. I feel like anytime there's a change, there's weird overlaps that make things quote unquote awkward, or how is this going to be managed?
Here's one for you. UTSA officially transitioned from Adidas to Nike on June 1st. On June 2nd, their baseball team June 1st, their baseball team beat Texas and advanced to the Super Regionals. So they are technically now a Nike outfitted school while still finishing out their athletics year as an Adidas outfitted school.
Here's a random question from me. Is there any...
Put it in the chat.
I'm not going to type it in the chat right now. Is there any team that's like in some weird where a few sports have different?
Yes.
Oh, who is it?
So Boston College, until this coming season, every team was outfitted by New Balance except football. Football was wearing Adidas, but now football is moving to New Balance as well. Baylor in the past has allowed each program to sign its own deals. So baseball wore Under Armour while men's basketball wore Adidas, while women's basketball wore Nike. I don't know if that's still the case for them, but again, 90% of all power schools are one size fits all. Some of the smaller schools allow you to kind of pick and choose. It's a school decision.
This is a comment that was brought up by, oh no, it went away. It was Linda, and she said that she really liked the Navy shirts with the script on it this year. I'll have to go back and find it because it went away.
It was just here. I just saw it.
I know, and it went away. I don't know what happened there, but anyway,
there it is. I see it.
Okay. Do you have any? I mean, I know you're a bit. Obviously, Clint loves his baseball, and he's told you how much you're going to see.
So much fun.
I know, but how much you're going to see when that releases on 6/5. Thursday, so 6/5.
Whatever that is.
So do you have a favorite Auburn baseball Under Armour uniform?
I still go back to that original 2009 to 2017, 18 cream furback look.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a perfect uniform. But there's some good ones. The one good thing that he who shall not be mentioned, but I'll mention him anyway, Sonny Galloway did for this program was the 1 year with the vested jerseys. Love a good vest. And I have a couple in that closet.
Can we just point out that probably your two most hated figures in both of those programs' history have brought changes of the uniforms that you agree with? I just think that's something we need to relish right now, that the fact that you have to grin and bear it, that they brought it, just like cringe.
That's how it goes.
That's just the way life goes, which means Clint's not going to get anything for any coach he ever likes from this point. Butch is never going to give you anything you like in terms of uniforms. I hope you know that.
No, I love exactly what Butch has been doing.
I know you do. Butch can do no wrong, and I agree with that. So trust me, I will fight anybody that tries to say anything bad about Butch Thompson. So,
you should. I'll fight him with you.
Let's do it together. I can't remember. Let's see if I saved this for a reason. If I remember correctly, the only impact of the Nike transition was Jakai Howard, because if I recall, made a statement he wants to play for an Under Armour school, transition to Utah Under Armour. Thoughts on that, Clint? Or
I have not heard that. I don't follow recruiting as we know here. But that's no. I'm kind of surprised it happened here.
Yeah,
we've seen many other schools kind of do it the opposite direction, that they want to play for a Nike school, and you can go down the rabbit hole of Nike owns a lot of AAU connections and tournaments and all that kind of stuff. So I don't care.
Right. I think what's interesting here, though, is certainly you could see that correlation, and he's going to say that, but not to get into the nitty gritty of that conversation. I think there were much bigger things at play there than just, I wanted to play at an Under Armour school. I don't know that had as big of an impact as even maybe Jakai thought, but there's at least that statement to correlate to that. You know?
And we've discussed this in the past. I have to be careful how I say this.
Just say it, Clint. I know exactly what you're going to say.
I don't think the uniform that a team wears that a school is outfitted by has as big of an impact on a player's decision as many people like to think it does.
Thank you.
It might be a factor. I'm not going to deny that.
Right.
But it's not like, unless you're Oregon, because Oregon, the players get to keep a lot of that stuff. So,
right. Do
you want to go home with a bigger wardrobe, or do you want to play to win titles? Again, I know Oregon's been really good lately, but that's beside the point. And that's what he wants to do. That's his Jakai. That's his decision.
Sure.
What he gets to do.
And I think I've said this as well, Clint. Obviously, I know you agree with me on this. I just think sometimes we overplay those things. Does it make an impact in some cases? Sure, but I don't think it makes as big as an impact as people think that it does. And that we can at least agree somewhat on all that in anybody in this conversation.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some rapid fire stuff here. And this maybe I don't know if this can be rapid fire, but I like this concept. I'm going to take what he said here. If you had to pick a different uniform brand for the big three, who would you give for Auburn football, Auburn basketball, and Auburn baseball? You have to pick different, though.
I kind of think I would go exactly what Neil did. Soccer Adidas. Adidas has great soccer cleats.
Mm-hmm.
Football with Nike.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Russell is out of the uniform game almost entirely. Let's go for baseball. I
Let's
don't know if he's still listening. Let's go with the work brand.
The work brand?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Let's just see if he's listening.
That was some inside softball there that I don't think I'm anywhere near qualified to be participating in. Let's see. As Clint is here, he's frozen on screen. There he goes. He's on screen. No, now you're not frozen.
I was just trying to lean around. There he is.
Okay, you found it. You were staying so still. I thought it was frozen for a second there.
Let's go with the work brand.
All right. While Clint and his friend are having their own moments. Speaking of friends, Avery wants you to confirm on stream that Nike will campaign Auburn to return our true green uniforms for football.
I can't confirm nor deny.
And then I love this. WT knows just how to get to my heart. When Tony Barbee, I told you, Clint, I am to a fault loyal to coaches until they give me a reason to not do that. When the day Tony Barbee said we cannot win here because of the uniform apparel that we have, that was the day I was done with him. I was like, "You're done. I can't." You know
how we had just talked about, like, for baseball, the worst coach brought one of the best things. For football, the worst coach brought one of the best things. Barbee didn't do a dang thing.
It didn't matter. Barbee, I can't even get to it here. That's another topic for another day. I mean, but that will be, I think, the moments let's try to round out our time here. These are the moments that I think stick out for me in Auburn and Under Armour. Click clack, the beginning of it all. How could you not? Tony Barbee blaming Under Armour, which I think fueled some of this animosity a little bit. Now, I'm not ignoring that Under Armour couldn't have done some things better, but that to me sticks out as what? Who even believes that somehow is going to keep you from winning? I understand how people get there, but that's stupid. And then you got the face mask, the big change. Those, for me, just as a general observer of these things, are the big three moments for me in Auburn and Under Armour.
Let's make one clarification right here with that.
Yeah.
Under Armour had nothing to do with the face mask.
Sure.
At all.
Right.
They don't make face masks. They don't color them. They don't do anything. They don't even design them. Again, as you're reading through these articles, you might think that, like, what does the helmet the helmet's player number location on the back of the stripe matter to Under Armour? We're just talking about everything in this era. So we'll just put that there. Because it would just be very boring if I was like, 2015 baseball revealed one new jersey. That was it. It's like, so it's everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you were to put a timeline on it, those are some pretty good spots. The original kind of out of the box, out of different designs that everybody but football wore to kind of just where things kind of fell apart. I think those are some really good milestones in that history.
Yeah. Well, whether you are happy about the change or you're sad about it, or whether you just don't care, hopefully you find value in some of the things that we talked about today, because whether it's important to you or not, it is part of Auburn's history, and sometimes is good benchmark in those points of history. Some of the correlations we talked about tonight, bad coaches, but good changes to uniforms, how some of these things happened, when they happen, honoring some special things and moments they did for certain uniforms, all that stuff and more you're going to find in this article for Clint, auburnuniforms.com/Under Armour. And then, of course, we've got the description links available for you. Briefly, Clint, what should people be anticipating as you march toward July 1st from you? What do you got coming up?
Oh, crap. Let me check the calendar right here.
Oh, Lord, he's got a calendar. And
I have a physical calendar.
Oh, that's right. I haven't seen the calendar before. I've actually changed that calendar before. He didn't know it.
What'd you do?
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's going to stick in your brain tonight when you're laying in bed, and you're just going to be very concerned what I did to you.
Oh, Jesus. All right. So actually, we'll mark off some of it. Today is done.
A live workshop of
Yep.
the.
All right. So tomorrow is the basketball article releases. Men's basketball and women's basketball will both be released in the morning. They're going to go live on social media at like 11 and 4 o'clock. Thursday, we do the same thing with softball and baseball. And of course, baseball is still ongoing. So baseball is going to be updated after each round. Hopefully, I don't have to update that one for a very long time. And then let's see. June 16th, tentatively, is when the 11th edition of the crazy Auburn uniform concept uniforms is released. There's 11 new ones, and they're pretty wild. So we'll be back here. You can pencil me in for the 17th. The 23rd is the season recap. Again, all of this is tentative. It kind of depends on how baseball finishes. And then July 1st is the big day. So it's going to be a busy summer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Along with a lot of personal travels.
Well, and that's the thing too. So yes, we are planning to do that in about 2 weeks with Clint for the wild and crazy uniforms. But as you can imagine, this is a busy time for him. So if there's no plans to change
Avery,
that.
I am not doing that. Absolutely not.
I saw if you were going to see that or not. But listen, we're planning to have him back for that. So be looking for that on our streams, on our channel, and we'll be making announcements about that. And then we do plan to have a conversation after Auburn switches to Nike. Maybe that date, maybe not. We kind of got a tentative date on that. As you can imagine, Clint is very busy on that day, and he will be working very hard to basically live his Super Bowl moment, that as we've all called it. And once that Super Bowl moment is over, what is Clint going to do with his life? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. My sources have gone back and forth for the last year of whether Auburn's going to have a big party on July 1st or later in the month or not at all. So we'll see. We don't know.
You're going to drop that.
I genuinely have no idea what the answer to that question is.
Oh, I know you don't know the answer. And I believe you. But you're just going to leave us with that little. That's going to make us all start thinking. Do you know how much people are going to start clamoring? Orange uniforms are coming out.
No. If they do, I'll be shocked.
So can I just let me get this because I may clip this. Clint Richardson, to the best of your knowledge, will Auburn football have orange jerseys this year?
No.
Okay. I'm going to clip that, use it for whenever someone comes onto my stuff, convinced that there are orange jerseys that exist to be used this year. So thank you for that.
Lake, I cannot answer that question.
There you go. We'll bring that up one more time. Does the university already have Nike uniforms possession? So he's informed, but there's even things that Clint and all his well-placed sources don't know. All right, Clint, final words, final thoughts on Auburn and Under Armour. What do you got?
I think that this has been a successful 18 years. I think that Auburn has had a lot of great looks. Auburn has had a lot of success on the field and off the field. People are going to look back at the Under Armour era with not the fondest of memories, and I think that's wrong. Don't let the bad times outweigh all the good times. Don't let the bad designs outweigh the good designs. There's a lot of it. Some of it's on Under Armour, some of it's on Auburn, some of it's on both. But There's a rich history in these almost 2 decades. And again, like we said at the very beginning, it's not every day that you have a hard cap on both sides of this. So if you want to see a complete history of Auburn uniforms during the Under Armour era, it's all available at auburnuniforms.com.
There you go. The history is about to be complete. Love it or hate it, happy or sad that it's going. The change is approaching. You have days left. Go get your Under Armour gear now while it's hot.
Neil, you don't recall any bad ones? You will see them this week.
There you go. whether you thought they were good, whether you thought they were bad, whether you thought it was a good time or not, there were some good times with Auburn Under Armour.
I fully expect a lot of people to respond after this whole series is released. Oh my gosh, I forgot about this design.
Yes. And that's the beauty of what you do and why
there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of, I had no idea that this one existed.
It's kind of, is it like a Mandela effect where you didn't realize that was actually real and you thought it was different?
Yep. And again, let me finish on this one. In Jay Jacobs' last episode with Auburn Undercover, he had mentioned the Barfield era orange jerseys and did the cardinal sin with these jerseys and mentioned that Auburn lost against Tennessee while wearing them. The orange jerseys were on the cover of the Auburn-Tennessee game program that season. Auburn wore blue. Auburn did not wear orange that game. But that is the Mandela effect that the orange jerseys have. So if you take nothing from the Auburn Uniform Database, take this. Get your history right. And this is your resource to get your history right. If you don't care about how the decals changed and the helmet style changed for softball and their crazy helmet designs that they've had over the years, you can at least have definitive proof of when things happened. And again, Auburn is not winless in orange jerseys, not even during the Doug Barfield era.
There you go. Get your history right, study up, Auburn Uniform Database, and now you have the resource available to you for the history of Auburn and Under Armour. Clint, as always, it is a joy to talk to you. I love messing with you, and I only do it because we appreciate you. And as you've seen several people talk about, they appreciate the work that you do at Auburn Uniform Database. So we'll be back. Plenty more to talk about with you this summer. And
you can't get rid of me this summer.
Oh, it's well, I'll try to, trust me.
As he's going to hit the end stream button.
It's like, what happened, Clint? I'm sorry. All right. With that being said, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate that. And thank you for being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.